Tinitingnan pa nga yung total damage, so hindi pa natin alam kung paano i-distribute siya at kung magkano ang distribution per region and local government unit kung kinakailangan.
The Budget Department says 2 billion pesos will come from the Calamity Fund that has been largely spent for COVID-19 response, another 2 billion from the President's Contingent Fund, and the remaining 6 billion from next year's budget. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Sonny Angara expects the President to sign the proposed 5 trillion peso budget for 2022 on Monday. Angara says Odette is an impetus to fast-tracking the signing. The President said last week public coffers have already been depleted because of the pandemic. More countries sending aid for areas hardest hit by Typhoon Odette. The Chinese government is donating additional cash assistance worth nearly 50 million pesos. It earlier pledged 20,000 food packs and millions of kilos of rice. The last batch of rice has been turned over to the Philippine government. The United States, through the U.S. Agency for International Development, is committing 10 million pesos more to relief efforts. It is partnering with various groups to distribute food and hygiene supplies in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands. The U.S. earlier gave shelter assistance and food packs. South Korea will provide around 100 million pesos of humanitarian assistance, as well as more than 2 million pesos worth of in-kind donations. The Korean ambassador to the Philippines earlier met with Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin to discuss aid and convey sympathies. Singapore also pitching in. It will contribute about 3 million pesos as seed money to the Singapore Red Cross for recovery efforts here and in Malaysia, which experienced widespread flooding. Ireland also boosting disaster response by giving over 14 million pesos. It's working with the World Food Programme and the United Nations to hand out essential goods to victims. Hungary, meanwhile, will provide around 3 million pesos, coursing donations through non-profit organization Caritas Manila. The Trade Department says a price freeze is in effect in calamity areas, but as Lois Calderon tells us, gasoline and potable water sell by as much as 5 times the original price.
Bottled drinking water at 120 pesos per liter. That's 5 times more than the 25 pesos per liter tag price before Killer Typhoon Odette struck most parts of Visayas and Mindanao. These were the Facebook posts of Cebu residents and their families calling for aid. In Bohol, gasoline prices skyrocketed to 150 pesos per liter. The Trade Department says a price freeze is automatic upon the declaration of a state of calamity. So basic commodities like drinking water and fuel should be sold at prices where they were before the Odette disaster.
Prices are frozen on prevailing prices. We already have the prevailing prices. It's already out, used by our monitors in the disaster-stricken areas or areas declared under a state of calamity.
A price freeze order is one thing, but policing violators is another. As retailers in Odette-hit cities like Cebu and Bohol struggle to replenish supplies to sell to long lines of people needing food and water, prices inevitably rise as businesses cannot sell at a loss. Cargo and freight costs have spiraled because roads are blocked and airports like in Siargao Island are destroyed.
My members in Visayas region are all hit, okay? They don't have supplies. Mahirap i-control ang prices because ang problema distribution, okay? Islands to eh. So distribution is the problem. It's not the price because people want to make a lot of money, but the cost of transferring. I had a friend who spent 33,000 pesos for his family lang just to transfer air cargo, water. Imagine water.
In Manila, where there's no price freeze, the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarket Association says some goods saw price hikes. Disinfectant, toothpaste, chicken, pancit canton, and pasta.
May mga nagtaas ng 7%, may nagtaas ng 12%, meron, no? Sabay-sabay lahat eh. Relief operations, Christmas gift giving, a little campaigning on the side by the LGUs.
Amid relief efforts in the aftermath of Typhoon Odette, basic goods like drinking water and canned meat are highly in demand. The Supermarket Association appeals to members to keep prices of these relief goods at bay and help ease the pain of our kababayans in Visayas and Mindanao who are left without food and shelter, especially during Christmas. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
Coming up up on Newsnight in preparation for the largely mutated Omicron variant. Fully vaccinated adults now have a shorter waiting time to get their booster shots. And which hopefuls lead Pulse Asia's recent voter preference survey? Find out after the break.
In times of crisis such as the destruction in the wake of Typhoon Odette, the military is on call 24/7, responding to calamities and conflicts. From keeping the peace in areas with security risks to protecting our nation's vast maritime borders. Many have offered their lives in the line of duty. 50 of them that fateful day in July this year while on the way to Jolo for a new assignment in what is now known as the worst military air disaster in the country's history. As Filipinos get infected with an unseen enemy, they manned checkpoints, built isolation centers, and transported much-needed equipment, supplies, and life-saving vaccines. They will soon be called upon again to make sure elections will be free and fair, which is crucial to what we hold most dear, our democracy. And as they commemorate their 86th year, the armed forces calling off ceremonies in solidarity with our kababayans devastated by Typhoon Odette. They will instead celebrate while carrying out relief and rehabilitation work in isolated communities, picking up the pieces in the aftermath of the monster storm. They say this is how they will honor their history of service and tradition of sacrifice. Every soldier, every Marine, every airman, and every sailor's mission far too important at this time.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The Food and Drug Administration cuts the waiting time for COVID-19 booster shots. Adults with complete doses of AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, Sinovac, and Sputnik V can receive an additional shot 3 months after their last. Those who got the one-dose Janssen can get a booster after 2 months. Vaccine experts panel member Dr. Ron-Jean Solante explains the shorter gap was recommended because protection declines to between 20 to 40% against the Omicron variant. Recent studies show antibody levels rise to around 70 to 80% when a third shot, especially if an mRNA vaccine is given. Solante adds the best time to give a booster is on the 3rd month, when it can still produce enough antibodies against Omicron.
So for you to maintain that protection, you need a third dose at this point in time, early, no? Kasi you need to maintain a higher antibody level against a heavily mutated variant. Hindi kagaya ng US ngayon, no? At saka UK, kasi marami ng kaso, ngayon pa lang sila mag-booster ng third dose nila ng 3 months, no? So at least tayo, 3 pa lang ang kaso. So pinaghandaan na natin.
Vaccine experts are still unsure if a second booster shot is needed after 6 months. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez, meanwhile, says supply is enough for the unvaccinated and those getting more doses. More people traveling again after nearly 2 years of navigating through this pandemic. In one major bus terminal, it is busier than ever as the number of commuters exceed pre-pandemic levels. Our CNR Arcangel has more on what travelers may face before going home for Christmas.
Chris Ann Lozada took a chance and was able to get a bus ticket for Quezon even without a reservation. Lozada is traveling with relatives. She says booking a trip in advance seemed impractical because of an advisory from the bus company.
Yes, we are lucky kasi dun sa pila namin kanina, may mga family na naubusan na and January pa makakakuha ulit. Kaya feeling blessed din kami na makakauwi kami.
But Lozada's case is not common in the rush to the provinces for Christmas. According to the management of the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, most bus trips for Calabarzon and Bicol were fully booked until Christmas Eve a few weeks ago. The volume of passengers at the terminal has also surpassed pre-pandemic levels, numbering as much as 105,000 on Monday.
The numbers are higher than pre-pandemic numbers, ma'am, no? Kasi same time 2019, ang highest namin was not even around 90,000. We expect this to continue, but we're busy in preparing, no? Kasi we think alataas pa ito, lalo na bukas hanggang sa 24th.
The terminal management has deployed roving personnel to remind people to observe minimum public health protocols. Physical distancing is carried out for seats in waiting areas. There's a booth offering antigen test for travelers in case their destination requires it. Seaman Roel Maglipon is hoping to get a bus ticket for Albay to be home for Christmas.
Sa palaran lang, ma'am, kung meron, kung wala naman, okay lang. Napaka-importante kasi nag-abroad po ako.
While some travelers want to take chances, the terminal management advises people to first contact bus companies before heading to the PITX. Cian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
Last-minute shoppers flocking to Divisoria, Manila 3 days before Christmas, but as Tristan Odado tells us, sales are still far from hitting targets amid the pandemic.
From Zambales, Thelma Ferrer traveled to Divisoria for a quick Christmas shopping. She says she wants to find the best deals on toys for her grandchildren.
Ayos lang, maganda naman ang kasi medyo maluwag na. Mura kasi rito mga bilihin kaya dinadayo talaga.
Despite the increase in the number of holiday shoppers, one toy vendor laments that they have yet to meet their target Christmas profits.
Hindi katulad dati na mabili, ngayon parang alangan yung bili, parang matumal pa siya. Nagpapasko na, wala pa. 3 araw na lang, 22 ngayon eh.
Vendors say that they did not increase their prices amid the Christmas rush, but sellers of face masks say their items remain in demand during the season.
Yung iba po, ginagawa pong pangregalo na iba po binebenta. Kaya mas marami po sila talagang binibili. Tsaka mas makakamura po sila pag marami pong binibili.
Traffic in Divisoria remains manageable according to enforcers, while barangay officials roam the streets to remind the public to follow minimum health protocols amid the holiday rush. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
In other news, presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Sara Duterte Carpio are the top choices for the country's highest posts in the latest election survey. The Pulse-Asia survey conducted early this month shows more than half of the respondents want Marcos to become president in 2022. Second on the list, Vice President Leni Robredo, with 20% of respondents backing her bid. She climbed to second place after ranking fifth in Pulse-Asia's survey last September. Meanwhile, 23% of respondents in the December poll say they would vote for Manila Mayor Isko Moreno if their initial choice backs out of the presidential race. Moreno topped other aspirants for second choice voting. Over to the vice presidency, Mayor Duterte leads other aspirants with 45% of respondents supporting her. Senate President Tito Soto is next with 31%. Soto is also the top alternative choice for the post. Pulse-Asia conducted the survey through face-to-face interviews with 2,400 Filipino adults with a 2% error margin for the nationwide poll. Still ahead on Newsnight, when will the next Miss World be crowned? The highly anticipated pageant already has a new date for next year. Find out when we return.
Ever to skydive into, then out of, an active volcano. Red Bull captured Sebastian Alvarez's incredible and death-defying flying feat into the crater of Chile's active Villarrica volcano, nicknamed the Devil's House. Alvarez's plan involved gaining an amazing amount of vertical speed and then opening his wingsuit to transfer the speed horizontally, propelling himself back up and out. Volcanic activity and harsh weather only allowed Alvarez a short window to make the flight, not to mention the volcano's mere 200-meter-wide crater. But eventually, all of the elements aligned to allow this fearless flyboy to pull off the surreal, sensational, and singular skydive swoop.
Nice.
Watch Target employees swoop in and turn a delivery debacle into an early holiday gift for one Arizona grandmother. Deborah Lewis says she tried to return 6 Nintendo Switch consoles that were delivered to her by mistake, but with no luck. When the company found out, they sent 2 employees with another surprise for this grandmother of 8.
On behalf of Target and your local Target store right down the street, we are going to gift these to you to give to your grandchildren.
Lewis was delighted and moved by the old Switch switcheroo and says she will no doubt gift the game consoles to her grateful grandkids.
My heart feels so warm.
For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Sam Buttrey, congratulations.
Sam Buttrey won Jeopardy's first ever tournament for college professors, and his celebrity lookalike wants in on the action. Steve Martin had some fun after viewers noted Buttrey's striking resemblance to the star. So great to split the prize money with Sam. The show responded to Martin's tweet saying they would love to have him on anytime, in any capacity. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You is the gift that keeps on giving. The 1994 holiday classic just made history as the first tune to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 Songs chart 3 separate times. It's topped the chart in 2019, 2020, and now 2021.
I admire your courage. But you're gonna pick a fight you can't win before long.
The Yellowstone prequel, 1883, had a massive debut. The Paramount Network Western series starring Sam Elliott and Tim McGraw corralled nearly 5 million viewers, making it the most watched premiere on cable TV in more than 6 years. In Hollywood, I'm Douglas Hyde.
Welcome back. A new date has been set for the Miss World pageant. Fans can look forward to the country's bet, Tracy Maureen Perez, gracing the stage on March 16, 2022 in Puerto Rico. Coronation night, originally slated for December 16, was postponed because of COVID-19. Tracy is already among the top 30 candidates following her win in round 2 of the head-to-head challenge. It is 3 days before Christmas. CNN Philippines brings you this Christmas tradition. The man behind a number of classical Filipino carols joins me for a special episode on Newsnight. Jose Mari Chan, together with his children, tomorrow at 6 p.m. And the caroling continues on News.ph with the Bukas Palad Music Ministry. That's also tomorrow, live at 7 p.m. And as we set off into the holidays, don't forget that the truly merry celebration is a safe one. Let's continue to follow health protocols, wear your mask, wash your hands regularly, practice physical distancing, and as much as possible, avoid social gatherings to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Happy holidays from everyone here in CNN Philippines. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you.
RPM, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXPO. Process sa sinag-utso sa dalan sa inyong radyo. RPM DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda, dini sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sigahan na may ganaon sa katawan, ang daw serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPM DXKO Radyo Ronda, sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
With the further easing of pandemic restrictions, the government has been rolling out its COVID-19 vaccination program for minors who are 12 to 17 years old. It's part of a bigger plan to safely reopen schools that have been kept shut since the start of the pandemic. Now, the target is to inoculate 80% of the younger population by the end of the year. Can we do it? And what do we know so far about this initiative? We'll find out more here on MedTalk Health Talk, only on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. The move to vaccinate minors is a result of plans to gradually reopen schools for limited face-to-face classes. Now, to help us with today's discussion, let's welcome Dr. Ronjean Solante, who's the head of the Infectious Diseases and Tropical Medicine Department of the San Lazaro Hospital and Medical Center and member of the Vaccine Expert Panel. Also with us is Dr. Ana Lisa Ong Lim, who is the chief of the Pediatric Infectious Disease Division of the Philippine General Hospital and a member of Healthcare Professionals Alliance Against COVID-19. Thank you once again for being here on MedTalk Health Talk. Always glad to have both of you on the show. Now, let me start with this question. I'll ask Dr. Jean, what have been the results so far of studies out there that are making way for the vaccination of the younger population dito sa Pilipinas?
These are the two vaccines that are being currently used for the rollout in children, 12 to 17, Moderna and Pfizer. And both of these have very high efficacy. And I think that paves the way for the approval. They were given an EUA in other countries, and that also paved the way for Philippine FDA EUA that we can use this for this age group of 12 to 17 years old.
Now, Dr. Jean, bakit 12 to 17 lang ang age limit? Bakit yung mga younger than that hindi eligible for vaccination? A lot of parents or a lot of reports now come na meron pa rin na-infect na below 12 years old. Paano na ngayon sa mga batang gano'n? Yung mga parents na worried about their kids who are younger than 12?
The priority here is really to vaccinate as many as the children, no? Younger than the 12 years old. No? But I think based on the data that they're presenting, they prioritize first the 12 to 17 because this is more or less in terms of the weight and in terms of the immunogenicity among when comparing it with the 16 to 25 years old. Medyo magkahawig lang to, no? So they prioritize the 12 to 17 years old. Okay. And if you notice, the dosage also is the same as that with the adult. But if you look at the 11 to or the 5 to 11, it's really a different group of children already.
Dr. Ana, what do we know so far when it comes to side effects? Pareho lang ba ito dun sa mga adults na nabigyan ng vaccine?
Most of the reports, Doc Freddy, are still showing that the adverse effects following immunization are as what we see in adults. Yung pain in the injection site, swelling, redness, fever, sometimes body aches and pains are still the predominant adverse events being reported. Although I have to say na after the rollout for the 12 to 17 year age range, syempre meron tayong global adverse events reporting system na nakapick up ng very rare cases of heart inflammation or what's called myocarditis. In fact, yung sa database ng US, all the way through June or July of 2021, after 300 million doses, ang rate is 0.0004%. So, napakakonti. But of course, syempre, binabantayan pa rin yan.
Maraming nagtatanong, is there even a slight possibility na yung anak nila, given the COVID-19 vaccine, pwede ba nilang makuha ang COVID-19 sakit dito sa vaccine?
Ang ginagamit nating mga bakuna globally against COVID-19 are what we call the inactivated vaccines. Ang laman niyan, dead virus or parts of the virus na hindi naman mabubuhay pag tinurok na natin sa katawan. So when you get vaccinated, the outcomes expected are protection against severe critical disease and lowering the risk of death.
The vaccination process for minors is very similar with the adult group, except that they have to present a signed consent form. They must also be with their parent or guardian on the day of vaccination. Dr. Ana, please walk us through the registration process. At pwede bang magpabakuna ang mga walk-in, yung mga hindi nag-register beforehand?
Siguro medyo maninibago ang mga kababayan natin dito sa prosesong to kasi when we go get our vaccinations, there are no documents being signed naman The fact that you're there in the clinic asking to be vaccinated is taken to be your consent. Pumapayag ka kasi nandoon ka nga. Pero dito, dahil nga emergency use authorization, kahit sa adults, pinagpipirma tayo ng consent, ganun din sa mga bata. Pero ang pipirma ay yung magulang dahil wala pa sa legal age yung bata. Ang hinihingi natin sa bata ay yung assent. Pumapayag din siyang mabakunahan. Most LGUs will ask for kids to be scheduled because we want to manage crowds.
Right.
Yun kasi yung nagiging source ng pagkakahawaan hindi yung bakuna, yung proseso ng pagbabakuna ang problema natin. But I would encourage our viewers to be alert for any announcements from their LGUs because in some cases, pumapayag nga ng walk-ins. You're right to mention that, no? At baka naman ma-accommodate sila.
Okay. Now, Dr. Ana, when it comes dito sa medical certificate na required for vaccination ng mga minors, what should the parents know about this? Dapat ba hawak-hawak nila ito? Will they be turned away kapag wala silang medical certificate from their doctor?
Part ng rollout natin focused on 12 to 17s with comorbidities. Doon hininga ng medical certificate because we wanted to make sure that the people who were presenting to the vaccination centers were truly the 12 to 17 age 3s o yung with comorbidities. Pero ngayon na nag-expand na tayo ng rollout for normal 12 to 17s, ang kailangan lang talagang magdala ng medical certificate ay yung may comorbidities para lang alam nung team na magbabakuna sa kanila kung ano yung kondisyon ng pasyente. Pero kung healthy yung bata, hindi hinihinga ng medical certificate.
Now, Dr. Jean, pinag-usapan na natin to earlier. When do you think will be the plan for the Philippines to finally have that below 12-year-old group na pwede na rin silang bakunahan?
Sa ngayon, wala pang nag-apply for an EUA for the extended or expanded indication sa mga bata. No? So we would expect na later on siguro Pfizer will do apply for that, because that's the same process they did when the vaccine was approved for the 12 to 17 years old in the US. Nung na-approve na to, nung nakita doon sa data na maganda rin ang 5 to 11 years old. And siguro, once na mag-file sila ng EUA, then we can use that.
Now that we know about the vaccine rollout for minors and the side effects, how should parents and their children prepare? We'll have the answers for you after a short break. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk, where your health always comes first. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're together in health. Adults make up the large majority of COVID-19 cases, but this doesn't mean that children aren't vulnerable. A vaccine will lower their chances of serious complication. In addition to that, if many of them get vaccinated, the chance of us reaching herd immunity goes up. Let's go through some of the more important aspects of pediatric vaccination. Dr. Ana, first, let's explain again kung ano yung mga bakuna na approved para sa mga bata ngayon.
So this will be the Pfizer vaccine as well as the Moderna vaccine. And both belong to the same platform. We call them the mRNA vaccines.
When it comes to these vaccines, itong dalawa lang ang pwede. Does that mean, does this have any significance to the safety when it comes to the kids, itong dalawang brands na to? What about the parents who think about sila na bakunahan with this brand? Can their child be given the same brand that they received as well?
For some of the other platforms, the pediatric trials are still either just starting up or being completed. So of course, we cannot naman give vaccines that don't have an EUA, even if the parents prefer it, kasi we don't have the data to support that this will be safe or efficacious for the kids. So for now, granted that we know that the disease is spreading in our communities and we want for the kids also to be protected since they have the opportunity, then we should take the chance and be vaccinated na.
Now, Dr. Jean, marami ang mga parents ang nagtatanong. One of the reasons rin sa my hesitancy nila to have their kids vaccinated, their question is, how did the FDA determine yung safety and effectiveness ng mga COVID-19 vaccines, itong two brands of COVID-19 vaccines na pwedeng ibigay sa mga bata?
When we evaluated these vaccines, the number one priority is always how safe these vaccines are. And in fact, in the phase 2, phase 3 trials of the Pfizer and Moderna, those were the main objectives. And they found out that it's really safe, it's tolerable, and that paved the way for the approval. You may have adverse reaction, but the adverse reaction still are very low, and most of them are the ones that you see also in adults. But in terms of the more severe, serious adverse reactions, especially for the mRNA, which is myocarditis, it's really rare at this point in time. So we must, I think, emphasize that these vaccines are really safe before it was approved, and because of that, most countries now are also giving vaccines with this age group.
For the parents' peace of mind, are there any windows? Pwede bang ma-overdose ang isang bata when it comes to these vaccines or any safety requirements such as that?
Kadalasan nakikita natin ang mother are very conscious about the dosage, no, kung hindi ba mag-overdose. Now, again, balikan natin itong mga dalawang clinical trial, no? And determining the dose was very important. Primarily that it is safe and it is less reactogenic, no? Ibig sabihin, less ang side effect. At the same time, without getting the benefit, which is the efficacy of that particular vaccine.
Meron bang grupo ng mga bata where the parents should be aware who shouldn't get inoculated?
For as long as medically stable, okay kang mabakunahan. Ganon din sa mga bata. Even for those with comorbidities or immunocompromising conditions, we actually encourage vaccination. Kasi kung sila nga ay mahawaan, sila yung napakataas ang risk na ma-hospital o mamatay. So for as long as they're medically stable, okay to vaccinate.
Dr. Ana, let's talk about the safety ng mga children in getting the COVID vaccine as well as their vaccines, yung mga usual vaccines sila for preventable diseases. Alin nung dapat mauna? What's the time frame in between that parents should be aware about?
We actually have data from abroad that simultaneous or co-administration of vaccinations is allowed. However, our local practice has been very, very conservative and we continue to advocate for a 2-week interval between doses of COVID-19 vaccine and any other vaccine. And this is really just because we want to have less worries, less concerns about any interactions or adverse effects following vaccination and being able to track them well.
Getting vaccinated and following health protocols will protect you from the virus. After a short break, we'll revisit these practices that work. This is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care comes first. Dr. Jean, review natin para sa mga viewers yung mga health protocols. Lalo na holiday season, what should our viewers know about the proper health protocols?
You have to wear your face mask. Paglabas mo sa bahay, talagang walang tanggalan ng face mask yan, especially when you are in the workplace. And then, as much as possible, we also have to avoid crowding. No? Although, pinababa na ngayon ang alert level natin, so there will be more capacity sa mga workplace or sa mga public transportation. The more we should be compliant with the health protocol, face mask. And I think for me, personally, I would still advocate the use of the face shield, especially in closed spaces.
Dr. Jean, ngayon na nakikita natin na pababa ang trend when it comes to new infections on COVID-19, you still would advocate na we shouldn't let our guard down?
I think ang nakikita natin ngayon, pag sinabing binaba na yung alert level, ang mga tao mas lalong naging kampante. No? So they thought na everything is okay, pwede nang magtanggal ng mask, pwede nang magkipaghalubilo, maski sa ano. No, that should not be the way, that should not be our attitude at this point in time. Remember, the virus is still here. It's not yet zero case. And we're dealing with the most highly transmissible virus, which is the Delta variant. And I think we should always be reminded of these health protocols.
Dr. Ana, in line with that, what do you think about a lot of the parents, syempre, matagal na nilang hindi nila na ilalabas ang anak nila, hindi na ipapasyal. And lately, we see a lot of parents bringing their children to malls, to public establishments and whatnot. What is your opinion on this?
I have to admit, nung nakita nga natin nung nakaraang weekend, diba, that was the first weekend after which the restrictions for minors were lifted. Talagang ang dami-daming bata. And unfortunately, marami ding mga bata na hindi talaga makasunod dun sa ating minimum public health standards, pagsusuot ng mask o pag-iwas sa dami ng tao. So siguro bilang mga magulang and guardians, hindi naman natin sinasabing wag nyo nang ilabas yung mga bata. Pero I think dapat kaya nating utakan yung virus eh. We have to be able to outsmart it and think, where should we go where the virus is less likely to be present? So that means dapat hindi sobrang dami yung mga ibang taong makakasama ninyo at mas maganda kung open space para hindi kulob at hindi nag-iipon yung virus at mas maganda rin kung mas kaunti ang tao na nasa paligid, no? So if you keep that in mind, then it's entirely possible to have a safe activity outside of our homes.
Now, as schools reopen, a lot will depend on teachers to ensure that children will be able to continue their education in a safe and healthy environment and make up for the knowledge and skills that may have been lost. Dr. Jean, for both teachers as well as students, what are some of the do's and don'ts inside the classroom that you would advise or recommend?
Dapat bago tayo mag-open ng classes, no, yung face-to-face, both the teachers and the students should be vaccinated na, no? Importante yan. And then I think schools are now preparing also in terms of the ventilation, no, sa mga rooms, and that's very important also kasi alam naman natin na when you open up and then you tend to accommodate more of this in the classroom, there's a possibility that you cannot really prevent, no, yung longer interaction. So one is ventilation, and I think the school should have a very good protocol in terms of the health protocols, health measures, screening, and it should also be in place once the schools will be open for the face-to-face.
Ang Delta variant ang pinaka-predominant variant dito sa Pilipinas ngayon. But there are some variants of this as well that are being a cause for monitoring or even concern. What is the latest news? What should parents know about this? And could you explain to us also where these variants come from? Bakit sila dumadami? Are these coming from people who are vaccinated or those who are unvaccinated?
It's a Delta variant that's really the most dominant here in the Philippines. And we know that variant usually exists because of constant and ongoing transmission in the community. There are people that are what we call immunocompromised that are also vulnerable, where most of this variant can really or readily mutate. So the bottom line here is if you are vaccinated, you stop the transmission, you have an antibody, then even if you get the infection, your risk of that variant mutating in a vaccinated will be really, really low compared to an unvaccinated individual. So the bottom line here is that we need everyone to be vaccinated to lessen the transmission and to lessen the risk of these mutations.
Now, Dr. Ana, what advice can you give naman sa mga parents, and how can they prepare their children mentally as well as physically before going back to school? I'm sure maraming parents may be excited but hesitant as well.
They have to think 2 or 3 steps ahead. Paano ba natin masisiguro na hindi mahahawaan yung bata? So tama, yung bakuna kung pwede na. Tapos, kailangan din nilang i-orient yung kanilang mga kids kung ano ba yung purpose nung ginagamit ng mga PPE and why it's necessary, and how to behave, no, inside the classroom to decrease the risk of transmission. And then siguro, they may also want to coordinate with the school officials to find out ano po ba yung ating protocol or SOPs kung sakasakaling meron tayong ma-detect na positive case, anong gagawin sa mga bata.
What do you think parents should do if their child is exposed nga to someone with COVID-19 in their school?
Let's expect the worst case scenario so we're ready for it. So gusto natin na merong parang some kind of contact tracing system yung school community. Paano ba inire-report ng mga students kung meron silang positive case or may positive case at home? Tapos, paano pinapaalam sa mga close contacts or classmates ng bata? And then, of course, alam naman natin na pagka naging high-risk close contact ng isang individual, meaning hindi siya nakapasa dun sa apat dapat standards, di magpa-quarantine dapat yung batang yun. And that means 14 days out of the school setting, and also making sure that the home environment is set up to be able to handle a quarantine situation.
And with that, thank you very much to infectious disease specialist Dr. Ronjin Solante and Dr. Ana Lisa Ong Lim. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Maraming salamat sa inyo. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this has been MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.